This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 9, The Crossing.
The ship's not important right now. We need to get out of here first.
Quite correct. Besides, it is most unlikely that the Marauder will be recovered.
What? Don't say that. We have to get it back.
We can always acquire another ship. It is merely a mode of transportation.
The Marauder's our home. We already lost Echo. We can't lose that too.
Omega, we didn't lose Echo. He's just on a different mission.
But he's not here. He's not with us. We're supposed to be a squad.
This squad existed before Echo was a part of it, and it will exist after. What is your issue?
Welcome back, fellow Batchers, to TV Podcast Industries. This is the Bad Batch podcast, and we're looking at The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 9, The Crossing. I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of your other hosts, Derek.
And rounding out this trio of people all missing Echo, I am Chris.
I think everybody's missing Echo here.
Yes.
Yeah, especially in this episode.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Angst.
Yeah.
It's basically, I have in my head every emo song ever made and just playing as a soundtrack of this.
Absolutely. Is preteen angst a thing?
I guess so. It
so.
is now.
Yeah.
Or it is in the galaxy far, far away.
Yes. Nirvana, eat your heart out. You have a new audience in the Star Wars universe.
Yes, you do.
And of course, the perils of leaving your vehicle unattended in this episode. I think some sort of locking mechanism was in order.
Yeah, I think so.
You would hope that very expensive spacecraft had a good security system.
I suppose
Obviously not.
It's kind of like a big boat in the ocean. You're kind of like, do you not have a key? Is it not like, if I just walk up to a yacht right now, could I just sail it away? Like, is there not like a kind of an immobilizer or something? But I'm kind of like, okay, I get it. Story, I'm fine. It's funny. But I was just like, could we not just see someone just kind of go, wait, let me hack through this? Like, get a hacking moment for the thief?
No, just press the button, walk on board, take the ship.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think they're just a little overconfident in their abilities. Who the hell would steal from the Bad Batch?
Well, that is true. That is true.
To be fair to the thief, I don't think they could even see who it was that owned the ship. He just found the ship and hopped aboard and took it, right?
Definitely.
Anyway, we're getting the major spoilers before giving the spoiler warning. You have to have seen episode 9 to know what we're talking about, right?
Let us get into our spoiler-filled discussion of The Crossing, episode 9 of the second series of Bad Batch. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Well, executive producers on the show, of course, are Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett. This episode was written by Brooke Roberts, her first episode of The Bad Batch, but she was a writer and story editor on The Flash up to the end of season 3, contributing to 33 episodes of that show. Still can't believe that in 3 seasons they did 33 episodes. They actually did 66 episodes in The Flash, because they used to do 22 episodes a season. Not crazy. But that was the good seasons, though.
Yes, quantity versus quality. The eternal debate, I guess.
Well, yes. Well, at least we know it's going towards its last season. Speeding towards its last season.
Speeding is a thing. It's like crawling on the stumps that was its legs as it has ran through our memory.
Yeah, well, how many people have got drinking problems now?
Oh, I think all of the cast have had drinking problems or substance abuse problems of some sort. Not the cast. Apologies.
Yeah, I meant
not
the characters.
The characters. I don't want to start any rumors at all. But Brooke Roberts was involved in the first 3 seasons of the show, and as I say, it is coming to an end this year. As we're recording this, we're ahead of their final trailer for the final season, so that's about to be released.
Okay.
Around Super Bowl time. I don't think they've paid for a Super Bowl spot.
I wouldn't have thought
for
so,
that, because that's quite expensive. But it will be released around the Super Bowl.
Maybe we can do a special one-off podcast episode to celebrate the end of The Flash.
We haven't watched the show in 5 years, and it's now over. That's the podcast episode. I'll just snip that bit out.
Wait, no. Do you know what it is? I can write it now. oh, something's happened. Oh no, Barry, you need to run faster.
Mm-hmm.
Run faster, Barry. Faster, faster.
Yeah.
He ran so fast, the problem's gone.
It
There
went
you
back
go.
in time.
I wonder if he gets a speeding ticket from a super powered sort of
A Green
traffic
Lantern, the super cop of the
Yeah,
DC
exactly.
universe.
What a way to end the series. Barry's in jail for breaking the speed limit. Yeah, well,
in the Speed Force.
well, maybe he'll run all the way into the Flash movie, which is releasing later this year.
Yes. Or maybe he'll run all the way into the Bad Batch universe, because that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, let's get back to the Bad Batch.
Yes.
Absolutely. The director for this episode is Nathaniel Villanueva, who we've mentioned many, many times as directors of many episodes of this show, and story editor for the show, once again, Matt Miknovitz. John, do you want to give us the synopsis that you have for Star Wars The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 9, The Crossing?
Sure. The Bad Batch minus Echo head to a mining planet to gather a valuable but explosive ore called Ipsium from a mine recently purchased by Sid. With Wrecker and Omega on lookout, an unknown thief manages to evade them and steal the Marauder, leaving them stranded on an unpredictably stormy planet. A brewing dust storm outside and a cave-in at the mine's entrance leave the group stranded inside, further worsening their situation as tensions run high in the group, as Omega is finding it difficult accepting the loss of Echo from the Bad Batch that has been further compounded by the loss of their home, the Marauder. As Wrecker and Hunter try to remove the boulders at the entrance of the mine, Tech and Omega look for more Ipsum to clear the larger boulders at the entrance. Despite Tech's unsuccessful attempts to console Omega, she wants to be alone. Wandering the mine, she finds more Ipsum to obtain and is joined by Tech. Reaching for the last vein of the ore, she falls into a cavern and a series of underground streams. Tech jumps in after her and both are swept away to a large cave pool and a new way out of the mine. Wrecker and Hunter make their way to join them, and emerging from the mine system they seek sanctuary at an abandoned spaceport where they manage to reach Sid asking for help. But Sid seems preoccupied and non-committal, but reluctantly she promises to send help. But it'll take a few days. So left stranded, Tech connects with Omega, saying that while he may not show it, he feels the loss of Echo just as much as her. Yes, the socially awkward, socially illiterate Tech.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It does feel like talking at a computer sometimes with Tech. So
Yes.
I kind of like the idea of putting these two characters together
Yeah.
again, Omega and Tech, for this specific purpose, an episode that's all about dealing with the loss of another member of the Bad Batch. There's a couple of great little nods to it throughout the episodes that they do need a fourth pair of hands. You know, they've been shorthanded since Crosshair left, and it does feel like, you know, if they just had one more person, maybe someone could have been standing guard a bit closer to the Marauder. Maybe that other pair of eyes would have helped them out, you know. So this episode really is all about dealing with that loss of another member, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah. I mean, I think as well, it's, you know, it's that compounding of the loss of Echo for Omega, because she's got a little cubby hole in Marauder. So, you know, she feels it's really a home from home, you know, when they're not at Sid's. So,
I think even she thinks of it more of a home than Sid's is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, she doesn't feel as though, because the other members of the Bad Batch are soldiers, certainly with Tech being really kind of
Distant.
objective about things, then it's really, she doesn't feel any of them are feeling it in the same way that she is. She is the emotional center of the Bad Batch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk a bit more about that in our blaster point number 1.
So, I mean, as we were saying, I think it's, you know, you see Omega, in effect, she's almost lashes out because she just doesn't understand why, you know, Tech is just not seeing it. You know, as he says, we're soldiers. We learn to then move on to the next mission. This happens to be a mission without Echo. You've got the fact that with the Marauder being stolen, the cave-in, this brewing storm happening outside, on this planet, then, you know, there's other things and they're putting their mind to solving those problems. Whereas Omega seems to just be kind of sort of, stewing on the fact that they are not as upset as she is with the with the loss of Echo, going off with Rex. And then with the Marauder, you know, she was on lookout as well with Wrecker at the start. She's called away because they need her to sort of mine the Ipsium. So it's miners mining Ipsium.
Exactly.
A bit of child labour going on there, I guess.
You need your tiny hands to deal with this really massively dangerous explosive material.
Exactly. I don't think that would pass the employment regs in this galaxy, at least. So yeah, I mean, it's all just, you know, she was very close to Hunter in season 1.
Yeah.
That was the connection. And so far in season 2, she's been spending a lot of time with Echo. Whilst they've had to split up and do various things, she's been with Echo. So she's had that time to really get to know him. And that's why this loss is felt.
Absolutely. And that is the entirety of this blaster point is all about Omega's struggle throughout this episode. Chris, what did you think of this, of how Omega was dealing with the loss of Echo throughout this episode?
So, I joked about it off air with you two. I was like, the first time we kind of, it is subtly brought up, I was like, okay, cool. This is like, this is a section about, this is her having to get accustomed to change. That her family will not always be there, that things will change, she has to grow up and be the adult. She is a part of this functioning group as well, and they're not always a family, but maybe they will be someday. But they are originally a unit, a military unit.
Exactly.
They're like army guys. The second time it's brought up, I'm like, okay, cool, definitely get it. She's an angsty teen. She's having to deal with this. Like, she doesn't want to. And then the third time I was like, okay, we get it. Like, we very much, I understand as a narrative story piece, you are explaining it to us and we have fully understood that they should be thought of as a family unit, not as a unit. Sorry, family unit, not a military unit. They're the batch. Very much get it. It was just very, and I don't mean this badly, and it was narratively heavy-handed.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way it was delivered.
Almost like a cave-in of
emotion. It's like her world is crumbling around her, and the only way is to explosively let it all out.
Exactly.
Working with the rest of the members of her family, of course.
That's it. I mean,
I do think there was a weird comment from Tech, though, where he said, we're the Bad Batch, we're a military unit, we have members will leave. It'll go on long after we're all gone. And I'm going, really? I thought you were the Bad Batch. I thought you were purposely created clones that have enhancements that could be the only members of the Bad Batch, unless he means Omega will keep the name and anybody that adds to her group will be members of the Bad Batch.
I think he just means the military process in that sense, because I mean, I think that's the disconnect, isn't it? It's like, Omega's like, you know, we're supposed to be a team, and the Marauder is our home. That's the hard time that she's finding adjusting to this new reality. As you say, she's not accepted it yet. And I quite like the pairing of putting Tech there, a socially awkward member, you know, as his name suggests, the tech guy who is more interested in circuit boards, data readouts, doing the analysis and so on.
It's Chris.
I was going to say.
You know? And, well, maybe. Sorry, Chris. But
hey, I accept it. I'm tech. Like.
You know, having them pair up, I think is good, because it is that contrast between the heart on the sleeve, young Omega who is dealing with new emotions, fresh emotions, and trying to adjust, with Tech who, you know, bluntly puts it, people will die in a military unit. People will be reassigned. You follow orders. I mean, there is an echo, dare I say it, of Crosshairs viewpoint that you are some degree are not consulted about things. So you just have to get over that hump and move on.
And then additionally, the Marauder isn't our home. The Marauder's a ship. We'll just get another ship was kind of the answer she was getting. And you feel like the whole thing could have been resolved a little bit quicker in a way. not that you'd want this because you need an episode out of it, but it would be resolved much better if she'd talked to Hunter about it, because Hunter understands her. Hunter has a great relationship with her. Or if she talked to Wrecker, because the two of them have similar ideals. So she could have
childlike wonder.
Yeah,
Yes,
basically.
exactly.
But she could have talked it through with Wrecker and probably got a bit more solace. But because she's stuck in this situation with Tech, having to talk to him, and he's giving absolutely no solace to this young person going through loss, really, for the first time.
But
she didn't know Crosshair when he was lost for the batch, but she really knew Echo well.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I do like the fact that she does have a child sort of huff and puff, and it's like, I want to be alone, and that's it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
but she also tries to prove her value
Yes.
to the batch by being the one to get the Ipsium that they need.
yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I am wondering so we've lost Crosshair,
Mhm.
we've lost Echo, and they're talking about they did very much say yes, they are at the end. There was a family agreement, etc. But I think potentially they are. You alluded to it. Maybe Omega will continue the batch name. Because I've always thought, oh, there's going to be an episode where Crosshair comes back and Echo comes back, and everything's hunky dory to a degree, and it's all lovey dovey. I kind of said, and I even said it about Echo coming back. Like, they just kind of letting him go for a bit for a story. I'm wondering maybe if they're not. I'm wondering if they're building it to season 3 will be maybe 1 or 2 of the original batch, but you're going to have Omega and then someone else.
Yeah, maybe.
And potentially it's that kind of trying to get the audience used to that there will be change in the batch. Like the Bad Batch will be the core, some of these core members, but potentially there will be other people starting coming in that will build out. Like what they like Rebels, the cast of Rebels grew to a degree. And that's kind of what I think they may be doing, but again, it hit me when you said it there, which is like the batch name, and I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, that could be what they're doing.
That might be the final point you might get, a much older Omega showing up in a later TV show and live action potentially in one of the future shows. And she's got the Bad Batch name, but I do think the show is going to continue to follow these characters. It's a really different show, isn't it? When you've got one actor, D. Bradley Baker, playing the roles of all of the batch. Yeah. You don't have to, say they've moved on to another project, so they're leaving the series. Yeah. What's likely going to happen, I think, is we will follow Echo and Rex's adventure as a separate episode of the Bad Batch in the future, or we'll follow Crosshair and his adventure over on the other side. What's going to happen to him now that Rampart's gone, for example, will be another story that they'll probably tell in a future episode. But yeah, this episode did seriously focus on Omega's struggle in here. But we move on to Blaster Point number 2.
Yeah. Yes. It is a cave-in at the mine, but it's not Sid's mine. So they do actually get the Ipsum out of Sid's mine. There's only kind of
very small amount.
a small amount. She's been duped a little here.
Yeah.
But in trying to get to the spaceport, having seen the Marauder stolen, they run into this huge dust storm. There is a stampede of unidentifiable creatures. I guess this planet's equivalent of deer. Yeah. Which means to escape that, they get into another mine, the entrance of another mine, but the Ipsum, highly explosive, highly unstable. It is sort of ripped off Tech's back. And so you have this cave-in where they're trapped again. And these tensions start to run high. But ultimately, this is where Omega is wanting to be alone, but finds this huge new rich seam of Ipsium.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, tries to prove her worth to the batch to kind of replace the loss that they have of Echo here. I just want to call out one quick thing here, and I'd love if the writers of the show would do this for us. Can you just give us the name of the planet, please? I spent so much time on this podcast in preparation for the show searching terms like Ipsium and searching for deer-like creatures in Star Wars to try and find out the name of these planets. I just want to know the name of the planets. But I feel like there's lots and lots of Star Wars fans who may know this planet, may know where this is. It may be in Wikipedia somewhere, but I could not find it. I wish they'd just put in a little drop line to say, Sid bought a mine on planet X.
Or do you remember they used to do the fade to as they land and they would have the name like in Urbesh and then kind
something
of,
like that.
Translated into English slowly. Yeah, that's all I want.
I just want a little bit. Sorry, but
that's true. We don't actually know the name of this planet, but I think what we have here with this cave-in is she's proving her worth, but falls at the last sort of vein that she's trying to inject and tap into. But I like the fact that given the awkwardness of Tech and Omega together, because they're kind of so different, they're at opposite ends of that emotional spectrum. I like the fact that, without hesitation really, Tech jumps in after her as she's taken away this, in this torrent, of underground streams in this river, to a huge kind of cave pool with huge Ipsium deposits. But this is their way out effectively. So, I mean, luckily for them, they are, follow the river. If you're ever lost, it always heads towards the sea. So here, that makes sense that they would come to a point where it emerges from its, underground course.
Bring the geography, John.
Exactly.
Sorry, Dr. John.
Do like a bit of groundwater action. For sure.
Yeah.
I love that there's a homage here to the Lion King though. Like the Stampede, and it's just like Simba and Omega and all that, and just because they're Disney, I was like, there you go.
Very good.
That's true.
I didn't even think about that.
No, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Is this an homage though, Chris? That is the question we have to ask here.
That's a question we always have to ask. Is anything an homage?
Yeah.
But who knows? To someone, somewhere, somehow, it is. To me, it is.
To you, Chris.
That's true. But then Hunter and Wrecker join them with the Ipsum. They managed to get the radio working.
Yeah, how did Wrecker get through the hole that was there? Wrecker's very, very big in comparison to the rest of them. And that hole was made by Omega, and she kind of struggled through it. But I do like that you get the groan from Wrecker when he's told that he has to jump for from a great height. But I think the groan is also, how am I going to fit through this hole?
I like that little touch with Wrecker, that he's always kind of got that groan going on when there's heights involved, which there invariably is.
Yeah.
And I almost feel he should be a bad flyer or astronaut effectively in space. That in itself, because if he's sucked out of an airlock or whatever, then he's not going to enjoy that.
No, definitely not. But you're right. That is significantly higher heights than we're talking about in the episodes themselves.
Yeah,
good stuff. But yes, the cave in the mine is what propels them, I guess, to get out of there. That's what allows Omega to show her worth to the team, and they find their way out because of this. But there's just one other weird thing about this episode as well, just that I want to call out. So Sid bought a mine on this planet with its sight unseen. The mine that was there didn't have any of Ipsium in it to mine, or not very much anyway. They got what they could. That exploded. They walked into somebody else's mine, mined it for a massive amount of Ipsium. So why did Sid buy a claim when you can just walk into somebody else's mine and steal all the Ipsium you want?
To be honest, I'm surprised Sid is still in business, that she's got any kind of assets at all. If this is how she does her business.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. The Sid thing is just that vehicle to drive them to the next planet here in this case. So that's the point of it. I think, with this cave in, Omega and Tech though finally, get to have this heart to heart as they wait for Hunter and Wrecker to join them. And you at least get the verbalization of Omega saying, we're family, so why don't you act like it? And I like Tech's response here. I process moments and thoughts differently. It doesn't mean that I care any less about them. Yeah. So, I really like that, because I think, Omega can take that in and accept that. And I think, with the next episode, you feel as though, Tech could be being set up for being the new Echo with Omega a bit, having that moment with Tech. So, she develops with this, that her three fathers effectively. She's getting different skill sets, different things from them.
Absolutely.
I think we should move to our final blaster point number 3. Which is, there's no help from Sid, really. Once they get to the abandoned spaceport.
Yeah.
They manage to rig up a tower so that they can communicate to her. But she's kind of fairly reluctant to help them out. And
you say reluctant. Planet says no. You get yourself out of this situation. I've sent you on this mission to this unknown planet to get my Ipsium, and now you got to work your way back. Now that your ship's been stolen, until pushed by Tech, where he goes, do you not remember we saved your life a couple of weeks ago, basically? Do you not remember all those times that we've saved your life and done the things for you outside of regular missions? And then reluctantly she says, well, I guess I could be there in a few days. And they're going, we have no rations, we have no water, it's a desert planet that's got these storms that are going on, we could be killed any second, and she kind of hangs up on them.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, the reference that Tech is making is to the Death Racing episode.
Riot Racing, yes.
Riot Racing. And that's where we do hear from her former partner that she can't be trusted. And so this whole moment was where it felt like, because of the reference from Tech, this was just showing, something's not quite right there with why Sid is effectively flat out saying, no, I'm not going to help you.
Exactly.
For me, it was, we called it what? On that episode, we called it on the one where the guys when the batch go with Fee to the planet, and then we were like, okay, this is setting Fee up. And then obviously at the end of the Riot Racing, they're making it Sid out to be a bad character, and I don't know whether it's going to be a kind of a flip of some kind in the end, which is like, she actually wasn't bad, she was trying to protect them or something. Blah, blah,
She's
blah, blah,
certainly unreliable and borderline selfish to a fault.
Yeah, and I think it also underlines the through line in this episode here from Omega, that is, we've lost a member of the family, and we've also lost our home, which is the Marauder, not the planet that we continually go back to, or Mantel. That's not our home just because we're there, we work there, we get jobs there, we have food there. That's not a home. Our home is the Marauder traveling across space doing these missions. Yeah. So it underlines
where
that.
the heart is.
It's certainly not where Sid is, who doesn't care at all.
Yeah, exactly. And then I must say, I felt the episode then just kind of abruptly ended.
Yeah, it did.
But there we go.
I thought this was a two-parter.
Yeah.
Like, basically, it has that feeling. And I was like, but the way that Disney Plus has set these two-parters up is they launch on the same day.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of like, all right, we'll see. Like, it's kind of like, tune in next week to see how the Bats get out of this sticky situation.
And that is basically, we did say before that is how the Clone Wars episodes used to go. It wasn't that this was part 1, 2, and 3 of the 3 story arc. It's that it would just end, credits would roll, and the next week would pick up immediately afterwards. But you're right, this feels much more like those episodes in the past. The big two-parter released on the same day is something like the episodes we saw last week, where it's a big moment in the creation of the Empire from the Galactic Republic. That's a big two-parter. The big two-parter we're going to get at the end of the season, I'm sure, will tell a similar story to that. But because this is much more of a character episode, I'm sure you can watch both episodes back to back, but I don't think it would be one that would entice people to watch a double episode, a big special event episode on the Bad Batch. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, maybe the Batch are stuck here for the next 6 episodes.
Yeah,
maybe that's
it's not
what it
looking
is.
good, is it? You also have Omega, of course, reaching out to Echo to try and get him to help, and they go, oh, well, he switched off his communications. Maybe he's on some kind of secret mission. And I couldn't help think, I wish I was watching that secret mission.
Well, exactly.
Sorry,
exactly.
guys.
Wait for it. You're going to get a diddle-oo, 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 and like all wavy for the next episode, and then we're off with Echo.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the main thing is, for me at least, after episode 7 and 8, this just felt far too detached from what had just happened previously. Like, it's not to say that they didn't need to go to this planet or that Sid didn't need to have a mind, but it's literally felt like no connection here. Other than the connection with the loss of Echo at the end of that.
Yeah.
But not that wider story. And even if there was just some little thing, doesn't have to be continuing 8, but I just felt in season 1, even though you had these types of episodes, there was more connections peppered in, like, because of the rise of the Empire, whether it was the new credits that were being used, or whether it was just seeing, the holograms with the public service announcement and linked to the new Galactic Empire.
Right.
Here, it just, I'm feeling just that they're too detached. I felt there was more through threads across the whole of season 1. And maybe that's my age, and I can't remember whether that's actually true. But I definitely felt that.
No,
more.
we did have quite a lot of missions of the week, and I do wonder. I definitely think next week's episode is going to take off directly from this one. Just to call it out, episode 10 is called The Retrieval, so I presume they are going to get retrieved or be retrieved next episode.
Yeah.
But perhaps we're going to find out more about this planet and what the connection is to the Empire as well. You take it that this abandoned spaceport that's there is abandoned potentially because of the storms that are going on, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else that they'll learn in next week's episode. But you're right, this did feel like the sole purpose of the episode was just about the loss of Echo, and they needed to have a surrounding to do it, so it was so they could all talk about the loss of Echo, and that's the only connection we're going to get to the overarching season is the loss of Echo, rather than this massive moment in the Senate that happened last episode.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. With that, any final notes for this episode?
Just one that I had, because I really liked the moment, and I was questioning it. When Tech and Omega go missing, there's an interesting moment with Hunter that he realizes really quickly that they're gone. I wonder if that his heightened senses that have made him realize.
Maybe. Yeah.
It seems like he perks up like a dog hearing the postman come to the door, where he's going, hang on a second, Tech and Omega have been gone for way too long, It really felt like that, so I wonder if that's his
like a dog being left at home during the day with no one there. All of a sudden, like, they're not coming back.
Yeah, that could be it.
I must tear up the cushions on the sofa.
We don't have a dog for that reason, John. We're not getting a dog. we can have our lovely podcat who does not tear up our cushions, okay?
He just tears up the skin.
Yeah.
He just uses his retractable claws.
Yes, true. Anything else for the episode, guys?
Well, it's just the thief, the unknown thief.
Yes,
we don't actually get a glimpse of the thief's face, but there was an element that I just wondered with I don't know whether it was attached to the helmet or whether it was the thief's hair coming through. It looked a little bit like the early Ezra Bridger hairstyle from Rebels.
Yeah, yes, it did, didn't it? Yeah.
Which would be kind of interesting if it was Ezra Bridger.
Yeah. It would be really interesting if that was the first introduction to Ezra Bridger, because I think that show takes place about 5 years or so after the Bad Batch, so he would be very, very young. So it'd be like straight out of the cradle, robbing the Marauder, and off he goes.
Yeah,
but it did
absolutely.
look like it. It did look like that.
It's just a thought to hold on to.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm sure if they are retrieving the Marauder in the next episode, then we will also get to put a face to the thief.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be revealed next episode. One thing we didn't mention was that Tech actually does provide a good bit of solace to Omega. Because the episode ends with her repeating that they'll solve this problem like they always do, right? So she actually did get some solace from his very computer-like feelings. So she repeated exactly the phrase that she said to her. Don't worry. I know the situation seems dire, it seems bad, but we'll resolve it like we always do by putting our heads together effectively. So, just didn't mention it in our second point there. So, thought I'd call it out there.
Valid point.
Mm-hmm. Right. That is it. I think, for our episode discussion.
Yeah. Final thoughts on episode 9, The Crossing. Chris?
A bit too emo for me, and unfortunately, I would say that this was just an episode of the week kind of activity, and I get it. We got some stuff peppered in, and I'm not going to lie. So, like, the ending where Omega does learn kind of like that they are the batch, they will get through it. Mm-hmm. The confrontation of, or the potential confrontation we're going to get with Sid in the future. And all these types of things peppered through made it passable. Like it's a passable episode. It's not terrible. I'm not like rolling my eyes going, that was the worst 20 something minutes of my life.
Yeah.
It's just,
you've had a lot worse 20 minutes in your life. Yes.
Exactly. I was just more like, I thought we were getting back into a roll, the swing of things with the last 2 episodes. So it's a big drop after what we have just been given last week. So I'm just kind of, okay, maybe we're just shifting gears back down. They're going to give us like this, one more, and then we ramp into the final couple. And it's just kind of away to the races we go. I just feel, and again, it's probably rose-tinted glasses, very much so, but I feel there was less filler episodes last season than we've gotten so far this season. But again, I'm looking back in nostalgic kind of view, and it probably is not the case.
Yeah.
I think it's very much, I was riding on the high of the narrative kind of jumps and leaps that we were getting the last 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. So the drop just feels a bit steeper now for this episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Back to Avenger of the Week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all. Again, passable, good, but just passable, fine. Just that's about it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to, not being mean. Derek, what about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with you that this is not the greatest episode of the show. I think it's important though, because we're following the Bad Batch. They are our main characters. When we lose a main character like that the team take time to talk about it amongst themselves and get through it. So I do think it's important to do that. I wish they'd been doing it while something that's important was going on. But because the setup for this is going to a mine and mining stuff, it doesn't feel like an important mission that they're on. It feels like they could have had these conversations aboard the Marauder while they were going off on a different type of mission. But I will say, in these episodes, the one thing I do console myself with while watching it is how absolutely beautiful the animation looks. I think the storm animation was amazing throughout the episode as we saw it. I think Ipsium itself looks very cool. I love the style of how they've created that. I think that's really cool. And the stampede was excellent. Really enjoyed that. Love the banter between the Bad Batch now. They're really it wasn't highlighted in the past, but it felt like the balance between all the characters together was keeping them together. And when you've got one element removed like Echo, it feels like they were attacking each other a lot more. They were very snipey with each other until that moment really when Tech is saying, we'll get through this if we all work together. So it does feel like you've got that balance created between them again a little bit, even though we've lost Echo. But I liked how that piece was playing into it, but I feel like you could have done it in a different way, in a different episode. Let's see what next week has in store for us, I think. That's where I am. How about yourself, John? Any final thoughts on the episode?
Did I love it? No. Did I like it? Kind of. I would give this 2.5 Lauren Ipsum fonts out of 5. I mean, I think
that reference. What's that reference?
It's a font.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
interesting.
It's a text font for your computer.
Do you think the writer of the episode wrote in that font? Is that why?
Possibly. That might be why they called the all as they did. But I think, I can't really add too much from what you've said. Mm-hmm. It's the same kind of thing. I think the drop feels significant here, and I think the difference for me is that in the first season, because you had them on the run, you had Crosshair leaving them and Crosshair after them.
Yeah.
This kind of episode would be peppered with suddenly clones and Crosshair showing up.
Yeah.
And they were on the run. So there was an energy within that. This seems like they're just settling down into doing nondescript, kind of missions for Sid that never work out. And I think it's really, they have to be careful about not undermining the Bad Batch. At least that kind of, they could have done this with Crosshair showing up sort of towards the last 5 minutes or something like that.
Or somebody showing up.
Or someone.
Because as you say, there is that.
I think that's I think that's where I have the issue now with these of the week things, because for season 1, there was a more dynamic element to it, which was escaping the Empire and keeping 2 or 3 steps ahead, or, the face to face with Crosshair, their former, member of the Bad Batch. And it gave something sort of much bigger to it. This feels slightly pointless, other than having Omega's sort of feelings, because you're right, they have to address Echo having been gone. But I think the setting could have just been so much better to do that.
Yeah.
And so, I'm being generous with the 2.5, I would say, but I think they really need to be careful, because at the moment, as I said, Sid, how she's still in business. I know it's a kid's cartoon, and B, how were the Bad Batch an elite unit? Because they're failing on everything. And it's not to show its failure and overcoming it. And yes, they do that here, but it's like, this is maybe the first time they actually sort of got the Ipsium, I guess.
Yeah, but they got it from somebody else's mind.
No, exactly. But I guess Sid won't care about that.
Yeah. But if you actually think about it, and really it's because we know there's another 7 episodes of the show that we know the Batch get out of this. But where it's left at the end of the episode is they're starving, they have no water, they're stuck on a planet that they don't have a way off, they haven't been able to contact anybody that has given reliable help to them. Sid has said no, I'll be there in a few days, and they've told her they're going to starve before then. Yeah? If there had been a moment at the end of the episode where the Empire came in, or the Galactic Republic came in to attack them, you'd go, oh, they're going to steal one of their ships and get off. They're in a spaceport that has no ships and no way of getting off. So they've actually ended the episode in pretty dire circumstances.
Yeah. And in fact, they have no Ipsium as well, because they had to use what Omega had mined to blow their way out of the cave pool.
But the fact that it ends with the cartoony moment of your lead character in a way of Omega going, we'll get through this because we always do. It's like it's taken away all tension that you may have had that this could be the end of the Bad Batch. But we know there's 7 more episodes as well, because the tension isn't going to be there. But it could have been they all die here, and Echo is the last member of the Bad Batch out there. Crosshair, the other member of the Bad Batch. Maybe that was the way. Yeah. But it's not like they're going to say they're going to starve to death, but there is actually no hope for the characters here at the end of the episode, other than them saying, we have hope we'll get out of this, right?
Can you imagine if the next 7 episodes is just a black screen? This is the ultimate FU from Lucas. Yeah. Just like, you guys aren't liking Star Wars at the moment? Well, black screen. There's your next 7.
Or it's a fade to black from them all lined up,
no.
And the helmet falls off and a skeleton head rolls out because they've effectively starved to death.
Well, let's see what the next episode has in store for us next week when we talk about The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 10. But we do have some feedback from our wonderful fellow Batchers on last week's great double episodes.
Good stuff.
First up from Facebook, we have feedback from Victor Von Doom, who had this to say: no good deed goes unpunished. When Palpatine appeared at the last Senate session, I knew he was gonna get exactly what he wanted. Mm-hmm. We'll miss Echo. Fine episodes. Agreed. Like, I think that was, they had kind of shown their hand by showing Palpatine kind of in some of the earlier trailers and things like that. Yeah. But as soon as he came, I was like, ooh, it was still great to see him do it. It was very much fun to see now it is full scale Palpatine, the Emperor from the original trilogy. It's not the kind of lead up that we've seen in the kind of prequels. It was full on, he's Emperor Palpatine.
Pretty much. He hasn't become Emperor yet, though. Of course, he's still leading the Senate here, so he hasn't taken on the mantle of Emperor. But great to hear Ian McDermott's voice in there again. That was fantastic. But when you think back on those 2 episodes, really, it was either Rampart was going to get his way or Palpatine was going to get his way. It was the same way, right? It was the same plan. So it was the inevitability of it. We all know what happens because we've seen the original trilogy. So, but I absolutely loved how it played out in those 2 episodes.
Agreed. Next up, we also got some feedback from Dr. Bob Phillips, who had this to say. Rampart is a very bad man, but we did get to see the high-tech version of a cyanide tooth. The way the Senate and the politics have been done at lower school levels up for explanation is really very impressive. Did wonder if it would be Crosshair who took the assassin shots, but anonymous clone terrorist makes more sense. Enjoyed the success of the batch in rescuing the proof. Didn't see the Palpatine switch to get the Stormtroopers running coming, and the split of the batch with Echo out threw me completely. Crosshair. I think we said that in our kind of review as well. We thought Crosshair was going to be the thing, but it's interesting to know that there are now other kind of skilled, different kind of assassins out there, kind of like grown as well, that we know that kind of Rampart put additional funds into.
Absolutely.
So we have batch level guys out there as well that aren't the Bad Batch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Bob. Great to see that you're enjoying the episode as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob. Russell Hooper had some thoughts as well. He says, here's a thought. A lot of these episodes focused on what happens to the clones post-war. We've got the senators advocating for them. We see Palpatine basically casting them aside when he announces the Imperial Stormtroopers. Think forward from the episode to when Hera and her crew find Rex in Rebels.
Pause for a second just to say there's going to be some spoilers for Rebels in the next paragraph from Russell. Hope you don't mind. Spoilers for the show. I know it finished a few years ago, but I know, Chris, you haven't finished the show. But there are some spoilers here for the end of Rebels. Is that okay?
That's all right from my side.
If you don't want spoilers, you can skip ahead about 30 seconds, I'd say.
Grant, I was literally just going to read it.
I know you were.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent stuff. Think forward from episode to when Hera and her crew find Rex in Rebels. She finds Rex, Gregor, and another clone, whose name I can't remember, living on that walker.
Yes, she does.
Now, I've always assumed they were living like that because they were hiding from the Empire. But what if that's also showing the general fate of the clones as a whole? We saw other examples of down on their luck clones in the later seasons of Rebels too. I really don't think the clones have a good ending as a whole. As much as I'd like to think they'd find an out-of-the-way planet deep in the Outer Rim or in wild space like Zeb's people, I just don't see a happy ending for them. Chris, I'm sorry about the spoilers for Rebels.
There you go.
Unfair criticism here. When Omega is saying goodbye to Echo, I think they should have animated some tears in her eyes. I mean, how old is she? 11? 12? Also, I'd like to see Hunter deal with a mad, sad Omega after she boards the ship. After seeing her glare at Rampart, seeing the look she must have given Hunter must have been terrifying.
That's a good point. Maybe that's the reason why she wasn't confiding as such in Hunter as much as she would have in the past. Maybe it's because she kind of blamed him a little bit for not going along with Echo. That's a good point, Russell. I like that.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Russell.
Yep, thanks, Russell, for the spoiler. No, it's fine. Thank you for answering our questions.
And I would like to have seen Hunter deal with, I guess, the mad sad Omega as well. I mean, in that moment, but even just with this episode as well. I like that they used tech in this, but I think, there seems to have been a distance with Hunter, or maybe it's just not front and center as much, and so it's kind of lost a little. In terms of your theory, I think that's really plausible. I really, really like it because, I don't think it ends well given there has just been executive decision making about announcing the Imperial Stormtroopers.
Well, absolutely.
So, I mean, certainly Palpatine and the new Galactic Empire certainly don't want these hanging around.
I doubt he's granting the retirement plan either. That's what half of the two-parter was about last week, was about getting this payback for the clones, the money that they deserve for fighting the battle on behalf of the Republic. And in the end, it was, well, they follow orders too much, so let's swipe them aside and get the stormtroopers in here. So it does feel like they're going to be just left to rot and die. And we have seen another example of that in Obi-Wan, I think it was, where we see Tamora Morrison return to play a completely different character from Boba Fett. He's playing a clone who seems to be down in the luck looking for money, effectively. So it is entirely possible that this is the Empire just discards all of the clones that had been so loyal to the Empire in the past. which is probably what we'll see as the rest of this season goes on. Russell and Alan Morday had some thoughts about the final fate of former Captain Rex connected to Return of the Jedi, as I mentioned on the last episode to you guys, that there is this theory out there that a grey-bearded guy on Endor is Captain Rex, as Russell says. Not 100% sure it's canon, but they did allude to it in Rebels, that he looks very similar to this character from Return of the Jedi. Alan Morday adds, the old bearded guy in Jedi has now been turned into Rex. It was confirmed at the end of Rebels. My understanding is it's a nod from Dave Filoni that you can make up your own mind. Is it Rex or not? Is it another clone? Because he absolutely has the same cut of his beard, has the same grey hair as the character that's in the scenes on Endor as a member of the Rebel Alliance in Return of the Jedi. But it obviously wasn't intended to be that way. It was filmed in 1984, way before the clone idea came up. And so it definitely wasn't planned that way. But I think it's a great nod from Dave Filoni that could be Captain Rex.
Yeah. I think the exact wording during the celebrations from Filoni was, I'd like to think it is. And we set it as a way. Like,
there you go.
There was no definitive articles used in those sentences.
Exactly.
It was just like, it would be cool if it was, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Great stuff. Thanks everybody for your feedback. If you want to send in any feedback to us for the podcast, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or you can pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. There's a spoiler post up there for each episode of The Bad Batch that we cover as well.
Yes, and if you liked what you heard, you can head on over to patreon.com/tvpodcastindustries, where you can support us for any galactic amount on an ongoing basis. If you also like to, you can write a review on Apple Podcasts and share the love by sharing the podcast. You can also support us on buymeacoffee.com/TVPI to help keep our illustrious editor in caffeine.
Yeah, lots and lots going on at the moment with the Bad Batch and Star Trek Picard starting off next week as well. And of course, The Last of Us, our 3 big shows, all coming out in a week. And if you forgot, there is also Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania coming out on the 17th of February.
I did forget. I really did actually forget that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I do need a lot of coffee at the moment.
Yes, please support us with as much coffee as you can purchase. We would much appreciate it.
And bandwidth and editing time and everything. Yeah, I think I probably need a week off work, to be honest.
I think we just need to clone. So if you are in the cloning field,
There you
we would very much appreciate if you could trial and error on us first.
Where are the Kaminoans when you need them? Huh?
Absolutely. But we will be back, fellow batchers, next week with our chat about Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 10, Retrieval, on February 22nd. As Derek alluded to, we're also covering The Last of Us each week at the moment, and we will be beginning Star Trek Picard as well. So plenty for you to delve into
Absolutely.
on
Wrap your ears
TV
around.
podcast industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Speak to you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yep. Thank you so much. Speak to you again soon. Bye.
Yep, thanks, Batchers. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep being naughty. Bye.
Bye.